Okay, welcome back. Mark Sage again. I've been here all morning, so if you've been in here, you know all about me. But just a quick reminder, I run the Area Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance, a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance, helping to accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. Now, we have officially the biggest panel as well, and some amazing people. They're all providers of the technology. Okay, we've heard lots from the end users and their challenges and stuff like that. Now we're going to listen to and talk about the providers' perception and what they're trying to do within the ecosystem. Hopefully we'll have some opportunities to ask questions, so if you want to go into the app and ask questions, please do. If not, we will have some roaming microphones. Okay? I don't know if you want to press the go on the timer as well, if that's possible. Just so I can keep up to time. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So first thing I do is going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and explain a little bit about how they got into XR. So Tim, starting with you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I've probably met just about everybody or had a conversation in some capacity with everyone already, but my name's Tim Van Alstine. My background is in Army aviation. So I spent 23 years as a pilot, and I retired in 2015, but I spent most of my career in training management, training development, training sustainment. And when I retired, I had an opportunity to take a position with the government to make some adjustments to how we currently train our forces, particularly in the UH-60 Black Hawk community. And we integrated a process to help, and I asked a company to come on board to help us do that, to focus on standardized development, global secure distribution, concurrency of the training material, and ownership of the content, so we're not getting stuck in vendor lock. And that was very successful. Since then, the Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps have all adopted it. It's likely to become a joint methodology for building content of this nature. And since then, the company that we had do that for on behalf of the government still does it, but I've come over to take that IP and that technology to the commercial sector and our lessons learned there. So that's all about Tim.
Thank you, Tim. That's a great story. Matias.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matias Koski, CEO of Immersal. I would define myself as a typical Finn. I used to work 10 years for Nokia, Microsoft in the past. And then while I was still living in China, I got an offer from our previous CEO to lead the sales in Asia. And then he retired roughly 2 years ago. And then I got the opportunity to go back to Finland, enjoy the lovely weather and low taxes. So now I'm here. Thank you.
And where are you from?
from Finland.
From Finland, yes. Thaisa.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm Thaisa Yamamura, Head of XR Business Development for Sony Electronics. I manage 3 different types of products within the XR space. One of that is a glasses-free 3D display called the Spatial Reality Display. The other one, the second, is Mukherjee, which we launched last year. It's a motion capture device. And the third one, which we announced at CES this year, it's a collaboration with Siemens and Qualcomm. It's the head-mounted display, which is 4K per eyes. And I started with Sony a long time ago, around 22 years ago, and got into XR, passed through different departments, and got into XR about 8 years ago. When I was on our headquarters in Japan, I saw the first version of our spatial reality display, which is a glasses-free 3D, and I fell in love with this space. I really saw the future in that product, and from then I was in charge of bringing that products and those XR products into the market in the US and other markets.
Amazing, thank you. Justin.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Justin Mullin, Vice President at From the Future. Welcome to Dallas. Glad to have you everyone here. This is my hometown, so it's great that AES decided to pick Dallas this year, so I'm pretty excited about that. From the Future is a virtual reality software development company. We've been doing it for over 15 years, and we've got very deep level of expertise in the 3D world, 3D environment creation. We actually created the very first experience for the launch of the Oculus Rift headset back in 2014. And then we actually created the very first experience for the launch of the HTC Vive in 2016. And that was where you were able to play tennis against Maria Sharapova. So that was a pretty cool experience. But yeah, in 2018, we pivoted over towards focusing on training. That's where hardware really started to being able to marry up with the capability of software development. And so we've been focused on training and education and therapy for the past 6 years. And now we are integrating AI into our virtual reality software platform. We have our own AI platform as well that's a subject matter expert-based platform. And so we're integrating that all together with an LMS platform that we've created as well. So we've been doing it quite a long time, and we're real excited about where the road of VR and AI are going as a pair.
Fantastic, thank you, Justin. And Hadi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the introduction, and Mark for the invite, for having me here. So my name is Hadi Nsouli, and I work at T-Mobile in a business development capacity. And like my background is I'm a product manager in telco. I worked from Nextel to Sprint, Nextel, Boost Mobile. I product managed every wireless product you can think of. And now T-Mobile is basically like offering some really cool network assets that allow us to provide a lot of like low latency programs, edge computing to provide latency in the sub 20 milliseconds for some use cases. So I'm pretty excited to be here, and I think we can be a really big part of this community moving forward.
Fantastic, thank you, Hadi. Purnendu.
Hello. Hi, I'm Purnendu, founder and CEO of Convai. Convai is a platform that brings your 3D avatars to life with conversation and action abilities. How I got into XR is kind of a crazy story. I have always been fascinated about how the human mind works, and that got me pondering about how do we humans learn, from a very early age. What I studied long back, like this was 2010, 2009, I was very disappointed by the state of affairs with AI because they were very rule-based, and I always felt like, how does a baby learn? Human baby learn? And the AI should learn like that, right? how can we provide an AI with a simulation world like that? And that's digital twins and simulations and our virtual real worlds, basically. That kind of like got me thinking for a really long time. I went deep into deep learning and AI in 2015, 2016, did my grad studies on that. After my grad studies, I started at NVIDIA. I was very fortunate to be able to lead some projects that became foundational to NVIDIA's conversational AI stack. But that question that, to get to the best AI, which would resemble humans the best, you have to put them in the same environment as we humans live, right? Which would be simulating reality the most, right? And I wrote about that during my time before my time at NVIDIA. During my time at NVIDIA, I got a chance to build the first 3D AI avatar, conversational AI avatar, which actually was shown by Jensen back in 2020. And then I found the problem as a developer while at NVIDIA that it's one thing to show a demo of a 3D avatar. It's a whole another thing to make that process easy for every other developer or creator. And that inspired me to start Convai, which I started about 2.5 years ago. And now we were fortunate that we got solid traction. And there's like one of the most popular 3D avatar platforms for bringing your characters to life. Super easy, self-serve platform that you can craft your character's backstory, voices, knowledge, and we have a bent towards high fidelity because we believe that it's connected with the same problem that if you really want these characters to have spatial awareness, like they can navigate, pick up things, do different activities in the 3D world, you have to start with embodiment first. Meaning they need to be high fidelity. They need to have hands and bodies like we humans do. And thus we are solving the problem of high fidelity avatars and embodiments who have spatial awareness. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So it's a great panel, but we have hardware, we have software, we have VR, we have AR, we have AI, we have avatars, you name it. Okay, so let's get to try and ask them some hard questions. Matias, we'll start with you. What is your view of the XR ecosystem? Are enterprises buying XR?
Yeah, we are part of Hexagon, who is kind of like quite big industrial player. They feed us all kind of opportunities all the time around the globe, and especially like in Japan, they are like super innovative. Then also in US, I think they are closely looking at Japan, what they are doing. In terms of innovations, like industries, mining, they are quite active. There's also like plenty of funding available and also long contracts. That is kind of like nice for different kind of companies. Then oil and gas, especially Middle East, they kind of like are willing to try all kind of new stuff, especially around XR. Then yesterday I was listening the keynote from ExxonMobil. I really love what they do and like kind of like how they openly share everything what they are doing and all the results and so on.
Fantastic. Thaisa.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, in terms of the hardware, we have deployed quite a few, as I mentioned, in order to fill the gap that we see in the industry. I always tell people that for me, it doesn't really make sense that a lot of verticals are working in 3D already, but looking into a 2D screen without this sense of depth that they could get into when they are using a 3D, glasses-free 3D display or a headset. So for us, we are pushing very forward for them to adapt the technology to really have the most out of the contents that they are consuming. Especially because if you take a look at the main softwares that the industry is using, most of the data is in 3D, right? So for us, it doesn't really make sense that they are using it in a 2D still. So we are trying to push a lot of products and having an adoption into the 3D world.
Okay, thank you. Justin, are enterprises buying XR?
Yeah, really good question. The answer, yes, they are. It's taken some time to get there. You know, it's been about 5 years of really VR, AR, the XR world to develop to a level of proficiency and quality that organizations, large companies, small companies are really starting to truly decide to adopt VR or XR tools into their training or their ecosystem. You know, there were early days for us where we've had to do quite a bit of education on what can be done with VR, what can be done with AR, and how can it solve this problem or it can solve that problem, to now we are approached and said, hey, can you do this for us, and how can we have you work with us on this? And so I think that there's been a significant shift out in the world in the view of virtual reality, AR, and how it can be a beneficial tool to organizations for training, for education. And so organizations now are starting to budget money, set it aside for their training budgets to utilize XR and have it be a part of their training program. There's a new generation of folks coming up into larger enterprises that are expecting to have these types of tools as a training tool, as an education tool. And so companies are understanding that they need to adopt to that and to shift. And so we're trying to do everything we can to help those organizations realize if you don't do it now, you'll be behind very, very soon.
Thank you. Hadi.
Yeah, so from my perspective, like we're not selling XR, but we see the market demand. And it's, first of all, like I'd like to give a big compliment to the industry here. Like I'm kind of new to this market, and I see the technology that the companies out here are developing. I mean, it kind of puts the Internet of Things to shame, honestly. Like I've never seen the level of complexity, but sophistication and solutioning that I've seen here. And I think, will enterprises buy it? I mean, will anybody buy anything? The answer is there value? What's in it for me? And I think from what I've seen from this industry and all the construction and digital twin use cases, that kind of come to us with a need. They're like, and it kind of went from like all these private enterprises, and I worked at Federated Wireless before, built a lot of private networks, and I know the value of security and privacy and all that stuff and low latency. But as my colleagues are saying here, the market is going into enterprise. It started with federal government building private stuff, and now the enterprise want it. And it's proven by, or starting to show with like construction use cases, digital twin use cases. And guess what? If there's a construction site, there's no internet, there's no Wi-Fi. So they're coming to us to help them with getting connectivity, and not just any connectivity, like low latency, very fast, reliable connectivity that's always consistently fast and kept fast. And so we have a plethora of telecom APIs that we're now calling network APIs, and we have a platform called DevEdge that is open to anybody who wants to come and develop with us and build new capabilities that enhance your products on our network. And so, yeah, I would say there is demand, and we're seeing it by people coming to us and asking us for that last mile connectivity solution that we can provide.
Great, thank you. Purnendu.
Yeah. So question is, are enterprises buying, right?
Are enterprises buying XR, yeah.
Yeah, so just, you know, as Hadi mentioned, it has to be the value. And at the end of the day, it's a combination of better, cheaper, faster, right? And that combination has to yield an order of magnitude better than what the current process is. If it's a little bit better, 20% better, 30% better, it's not worth it to make the jump. What has been happening over this last 5-6 years is all of these technologies, whether it's the software in Unity and Unreal, whether it's the network connectivity that allows for cloud streaming, right? Whether it's the processors in the VR headsets or in the AR mobile devices, all of them getting better, as well as the community of developers and the solutions that are out there, the applications that are out there, all of them are now, in my opinion, reaching to a convergence point, which is getting to that order of magnitude better, 10x better, in better, cheaper, faster. Now it's getting, in my opinion, to a point where it's become obvious and easy and a no-brainer and attractive and satisfying, the 4 key components for forming a habit, that it's actually getting to those points that now the adoption is happening. Like, everybody sees the future. That's why the number of sales of XR headsets is like pretty much mapping or crossing like the iPhone sales. But the usage aspect of it is where the friction is, right? And so basically from an adoption and value standpoint, it's actually happening. But from a usage standpoint, it has to happen now. And that happens with better, cheaper, faster. And a lot of things has to be made from an easy standpoint, all the way from wearing the headsets or getting to the access of the VR or 3D worlds and accessing it in a way that actually improves the processes, whether it's learning and training, brand advertisement, or like gamification of existing processes. So I think we are getting to a point, and also it's a matter of like who we are talking to. Like if we are talking to some person that is not the right person in the organization, then it's not going to move that fast, versus if we talk to the right person, magic happens very quickly.
Magic, Tim.
He nailed it. I think, are they adopting? Yes. What are the 2 reasons that are probably likely to its delay? One is new technologies are a little bit intimidating, particularly from a large investment perspective, and you want to see others fail fast so that you can maybe decide how do you want to approach it. And then the other thing is the statistics just show it, that those that have invested are now ahead. And they're now in a position where they got a little bit more reliability with the learning curve and the steps that they've had to go to get where they are now. And I think that, kind of like Jason noted, it's not a matter of should I, it's just how far am I going to be behind once I decide to do it. And another factor is an investment of this scale is not something that you can just turn around the next year and do, because there's a budgeting process that goes with a lot of organizations, and being able to plan for this sort of thing usually is not just something you jump right into the next year. So that, combined with the immersion of the technology and the ability for adoption, I think has been the thing that delayed it. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the statistics, and if you look at the ROI that's being reported out of it, as you were highlighting in terms of exponentially worth it, it's clear. It seems clear to me. So, short answer, again, is yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so, and you can answer this in any way you want to, okay, but as an XR provider, what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing? Okay, and you can answer that however you want to, but Thaisa, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge, it was already highlighted by Justin, and I think, to get to the point, at least from the hardware perspective, we see a lot of verticals concerned about getting, not concerned, but lack of knowledge on how to port the contents that they are already consuming into a hardware. Right? How they can go from the PC to a head-mounted display or a VR headset or a glasses-free 3D display. So I think the lack of knowledge is one of the biggest challenge in terms of adoption.
Okay, so we've got lack of knowledge. Justin?
Yeah, that's another great question, Mark. I think one of the biggest challenges for companies, enterprises that we're seeing these days is just knowing where to get started. The starting point is the challenge, because XR solves so many problems so quickly, and it also provides a lot of solutions in areas where you hadn't thought of before. And so if you sit down and you have a brainstorming session, you end up being there for quite a long time, and you end up coming up with this huge web of all of these ways in which it would be awesome, and this would be great. But at the same time, you've got to get these folks to buy in, and you've got to get these folks to buy in. And all of that buy-in is very critical, but it's also difficult to get, because you have so many different mindsets and so many different sets of opinion. And so the knowing where to begin part is a really big challenge, and so I think that's, as a service provider, is our job, is to try to help guide that conversation and help some of that decision making to get them past the starting blocks there.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Hadi.
A great perspective. And I think from my perspective, from the telco and connectivity space, and from a business development role at T-Mobile, we work with a lot of different industries that are converging into a wireless experience where people expect that I'm at home, I use my Wi-Fi, it works, so now I get this headset from this third-party provider who's streaming live this like gazillion gigabytes of data over some wireless internet, and it doesn't work perfectly. And it's a growing pain, and we see it in a lot of different industries that get into this connected space. We saw it in IoT, and now it's happening again, I think, in XR. And it's really a matter of like education. Like, for example, we had this demo that we ran with Mawari here, broadcasting a live avatar of a person from Canada to the bottom floor of this hotel where signal was like 1 bar. So it's a big problem, like I don't have connectivity. So we worked with our partners in the industry, like we got a call out to Digi, they got us a good 5G router, they brought Tau Glass, who got a mega antenna, and we were streaming live in the basement of the hotel. So it's an ecosystem, it's not one provider, so this is why I like this session, it's enablers, because we only provide one component, but we need partners to build the whole story. And I think this is a new industry, and I think it's going to take just a little bit longer for that to develop, so that whatever our Convai needs, they can find from other partners and complete the turnkey solution for a partner, for a customer. And I think it's coming and it's happening. It's just going to be a little it's tipping. This is the tipping point.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that was my biggest, I would say, that I have noticed as a pain point as a solution provider or platform provider is how fragmented, and it's early days, I'm not blaming, and all the progress that we're making is amazing, you know, as a whole industry and community together, but it's still quite fragmented. There isn't a single place one can go and find all the solutions. You know, like for whatever it is, I would want us, like Convai and 5 other similar Convai-like solutions to appear in one place, and that gives the enterprises the option to see, okay, these are my 5 or 10 choices. Can I then go and try out what it is, right? It's still very traditional on that front, that the whole sales process is very B2B, old school type sales process, and that has its pros and cons, but basically that's what I would see the biggest, and that's why I was so pleasantly surprised to be here at AES, that we get to meet all of here all together. So I would say conferences like this are probably the best option we have today in terms of getting everybody together in one place. But there needs to be something more like that, you know, where people can not have to wait once a year or twice a year, and can go into a portal and find that anytime, all of these solutions across various different verticals, industries, anything to do with 3D worlds, augmented worlds. The Unity Unreal Engine marketplaces are one such things, but that's also not dedicated towards enterprises or B2B solutions. So that's one challenge that I face at Convai, yeah.
I think, if I can add one comment, I think one of the challenges as well is that this is the type of technology that you cannot just send a DAC, right? You have to have your client to experience, because telling them that, you know, oh, you're going to be able to see in 3D, they will think about, you know, movies in 3D, which is completely different, right? When they are experienced, they are immersive in that content. So it gives them a very realistic and immersive experience, and then they understand the value of the technology. So it's, in this sense, it's a very tricky one, because you have to get your client to actually experience and wear the VR headset or head-mounted display or whatever technology you are deploying. And I think our colleague here is also mentioned the experience on Mawari. So this is something that, even though you can describe, it's not the same. You definitely have to experience.
Thank you. Now, just on your point, Purnendu, you know, the area is another good place to go to. Then and join up there. It's a shameless plug again, but yeah, you know, it is about. I think one of the things I've learned by doing this role for many years now, nearly 9 years. You know, companies buy solutions and they buy value. We are fragmented, unfortunately, at the moment. I know lots of companies are trying to bring that kind of ecosystem together. That's kind of really great. I think the other thing I'm seeing is a move towards more focused kind of value propositions and solutions. The HoloLens, rest in peace, and even some of the Magic Leap stuff, it was a generic device, and you were kind of looking at use cases. The companies are now saying, right, I'm going to be in construction, or you know, I'm going to do this particular use case, have a kind of more pinpoint focus that allows them to have a clear set of value proposition and things like that. So that's something I'm seeing evolution into the ecosystem. Anyway, Tim, I'm coming to you on that question.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to as an industry, we're starting to transition out of the wild west phase into the industry standardization phase because of events like this, because of communication, because of entities like yours where we all come together and we start sharing notes. But in terms of the question more specifically, which was biggest challenges. So for us, content development is our primary focus, and deployment, but primarily content development. And that's where it becomes the biggest challenge because I think somebody already up here mentioned it. There's an education process that needs to take place to the client to understand what's in the Cheesecake Factory menu of options that are available to you, and then a responsibility on our part as the provider to consult, right? Which takes an understanding between the instructional system designer and their subject matter expert to develop a relationship, understand that program instruction, and tailor fit it to needs versus wants, right? This is what you need in order to have any success at this, and if you can't afford that, don't get in the game. And if you want these things, when it gets to proposal time, it turns to an a la carte, right? These, you've already covered what you need. Here's some things that you want, and here's things maybe you can segue into in phase 2 or phase 3 as you start going through this. But there's an exchange between the client getting a better understanding of the nature of the technology and what is out there, who's who in the zoo, and what those people can do for you. And then there's a responsibility to the provider to provide that education and also to tailor the solution to the problem and not just cookie cutter, everything. So that's the way we look at it.
Nice. Matias?
Yeah, I see one challenge that quite often enterprises, they want to be fast follower. They don't want to be the first one. They want to see what everyone else is doing. And when someone succeeds, then they want to be the next one. Lack of funding is maybe one. Like quite often enterprises, they do POCs, but they don't have funding to scale it. And I think these are the main challenges that we have been seeing lately.
So these guys are doing an amazing job, but it's interesting for people that have been in here for most of the day, you listen to enterprises about their challenge, and often it's security and the IT security team, and it's kind of safety and things like that. So there is this kind of difference between how providers see the world and how enterprises see the world. And that's something I think we just need to get a little bit better. I know you understand, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to everybody, and you understand those things, but we see the kind of world in different eyes, and I think we need to kind of have that, bringing it together so we all understand the challenges and are able to articulate it. And to that point, the next question is, how are you helping to successfully deploy XR to help enterprises? Okay, what kind of things are you doing? So Justin, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So to that point of that consulting on understanding how to get started, understanding what that Cheesecake Factory menu is, you're going to build a house, and so how much is it going to cost to build the house? Well, it depends on what type of flooring you're going to buy. It depends on what kind of windows you want. It depends on what kind of countertops you want. So it's very similar in the development of these types of projects. There's so many things out there, and so what we do is we really try to simplify that process to focus on the challenges and the solution and what the area is that's the best low-hanging fruit, so that when we get this first project going within an enterprise, within an organization, that it's going to get the most attention. It's going to get the most traction. Often you'll hear sob stories of someone diving into utilizing VR for training, and it ended up sitting up on a shelf in a corner. And so that's a sad story for me, because that means that they weren't supported well. That means they didn't have the right solution. That means that it didn't target the best way that it should have to get the broadest reach within the organization. And so I think we do that very, very well at From the Future. For example, with Alaska Airlines, we're working with them on in-flight crew training. And there's a number of areas where you can go in an airline and have impact with VR for training. And in-flight crew, in that sector itself, has a lot of areas that you can impact. But just something as simple as how to operate the door. To us, that seems pretty rudimentary, but in their world, it's so critical that having that done just right and having the in-flight crew train on that just the right way, and being able to repeat it over and over to where they can have the freedom to fail and they can practice to perfection. Having that ability for them and putting them in a place that's safe to do it and make a mistake, that's such a simple thing to us, but to them it's critical that helps them in their training platform, that they're exponentially able to see where that ROI is honestly not an ROI on investment as far as getting dollars back. It's as far as ROI on dollars not having to go out on a mistake later on. And so we're able to do that across the board with a number of organizations, but I think that's the key, is really understanding the lowest hanging fruit to make the broadest impact in an organization early on in the process, so that the rest of the organization that's really might not be into this VR thing because they're afraid that a job might get replaced, or they're afraid that you might be cutting corners in some way, they can really truly understand that no, actually this is a supplement to everything else that we're doing, and it's going to enhance everything in this organization. So,
thank you. Hadi.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I can talk about as what T-Mobile is doing to help this, the enterprises and the solution providers in this market. First thing is we have the only 5G SA network in the US among all the carriers in the US. So that's a fact. I'm not overselling T-Mobile. What that means is we have local data delivery in every market where the user is. So we don't have to backhaul the data from California to Texas to deliver it. So that gives the market and all the consumers the fastest and lowest latency delivery of content. In that vein, we have here with me my colleagues Luisa and Courtney, who are from the tech experience, from the 5G tech experience at T-Mobile. So the way I got drawn into this domain is like we invite a lot of you, and we invite you again to basically, if you're doing anything on the 5G network, we have a dedicated lab for prototyping. We recently launched a DevEdge platform that is not commercial, like it's not for sale, it's like for partners to come and develop and build prototypes. We are even having a API challenge in partnership with Deutsche Telekom this last quarter. I encourage you to go to devedge.tmobile.com/API challenge and sign up if you'd like, and the winners will go to Germany and they'll showcase their product with us. So we're really reaching out to the industry and trying to partner with them, and it's kind of weird from a business development perspective because you're not like trying to sell them anything, you're trying to really just make XR better on the T-Mobile network. So it's really, we're reaching out to the community, trying to build better bridges and a better XR experience on our network.
And I think just to quickly back that, we've done some research within the area about 5G and AR, and we do need to come together. I think the providers and the kind of platform providers like yourself, there's a load of benefits, but we're not quite understanding each other's language and how we can support. So there's work to be done there. Purnendu.
Yeah. So the question is, how are enterprises using us, or how are we helping them?
How are you helping to successfully deploy XR to help enterprises?
Yeah. So like XR or virtual worlds, right? What has been, and before I answer that question, I want to set a like a benchmark of how things have been in the industry, and then go into how we are helping. So like, what has been the most successful virtual world application that we know of? It's games, right? 3D games with tens of millions of players, right? And why do people play games? Because there is a very straightforward game mechanic, a direct reward or loss scenario, something that if you can do, you get into a flow state, right? Whether you're playing that on your old Nokia mobile game of a snake game, or it's the most high fidelity 3D game that you want to play, name your favorite game, right? So basically, that's like a very clear win-loss scenario. When it comes to enterprises, right, it's a simulation of reality. It's a simulation of reality. Like whether you are doing it for your healthcare industry, manufacturing, real estate, construction, name your industry, right? It's reality. Reality is boring, right? Like every game that you can think of, it's basically simulating either a niche that you like or a scenario that you cannot do in real life, right? You cannot, like GTA 5, you cannot actually just go and rob someone like you do in GTA 5, or play Counter-Strike, shoot someone like you do in games, right? So basically, reality is boring. What is the other thing that is working in games today? It's social. Social is the thing that is working in games, whether you think of Fortnite, Roblox, GTA 5 role-playing servers, or whatnot. And we are social animals. We love chatting with other people or making friends. VR chat, name your this thing, right? How do we, and if we firstly, reality is boring, and what we are trying to do with our training programs and VR worlds is reality that is completely empty, right? With no social. So, right, so that's the challenge, that's the problem of why do people not use this so often. Of course, there's a big hurdle of first using XR worlds, like you need to have either a 4090 powerful GPU, or you need to put on your headset, which is a difficult one. There's a big friction right there. And then when you get there, you have to actually make it more fun or engaging. So basically, what we are noticing now with AI avatars, if not anything, if not it can solve the core game mechanic problem, it can at least address the social aspect, right? And these AI avatars, characters, are great at role-playing. They can play any kind of scenarios, right? You want them to be a customer, like in this room a couple of sessions before, Chick-fil-A demonstrated, I don't know if anybody was there, but there was a killer demo that Rich of Chick-fil-A did, where they showed how their people that they're recruiting can train. They have like 100,000 people across 3,000 stores in US, and to help them from not just like study PDF documents and PowerPoints, they can actually bring them in this game-like world and train them in a simulation of a 3D world. Now they can actually practice with AI customers to take their orders, right? And so are doing like tens of other, let's say, healthcare scenarios, because they don't get the time in the clinic to go talk with patients. Now nurses and doctors are training with AI patients before they go into the real world, right? So you get a lot of learning and training time, and it is social. It's fun. There's lots of AI characters that you can go around and chat and whatnot, right? So basically, so basically, if I were to distribute them, there are two kinds of scenarios. One is your usual, regular, day-to-day things, like more mundane things, like taking an order or doing a certain things. And then there are some, I would say, very risky scenarios. So for example, NASA is using us to simulate the moon scenario. They're training their astronauts who are planning to go to the moon as part of the Artemis program. You can't do that in real life. You got to do it in simulation. You can't practice in the moon, right? So like these are risky scenarios, like nurses and doctors. There are very kind of like very emergency situations which you will never be able to practice in real life, right? You have to be ready for it, and you can now do those kind of risky scenarios in manufacturing. Right? So all of these kind of risky scenarios is a great place, and the other one is your mundane things, but it makes it fun. Having social, having AI avatars makes it fun.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, kind of a different angle, though. I think in terms of the technology, which you kind of highlighted there, there's that advantage that we're bringing to them. But I think more specifically from the company perspective is developing that relationship. In order to build let me start over. A company is coming to us in the first place because they don't have the talent, resources, and capabilities to build the technology they want. But they know their material. They have the subject matter expertise of what they want presented. So we have to be part of that team in some capacity. Our instructional system designers have to have a relationship with that subject matter expert so that when they storyboard this material, they have an empathy for what the situations that they're in, the products that they're pushing out, or whatever their value propositions are. So I think the thing that we have to be able to focus on is being able to put ourselves in their shoes and be part of their team, so that we can make sure that the products getting pushed out is exactly what the client is hoping to look for. So
Good point. Matias?
Yeah, we have pretty much same challenges. So quite often enterprises, they don't have extra skills in house, or they have like lack of skills. So then we have to do lots of consulting for them. So we would love to only focus on our own tech and then kind of like sell scalable licenses. But then typically during the POCs, demos, we have to do plenty of consulting.
All right. So from the Sony side of things, one of the initiatives that we did is early this year at CES, we announced our head-mounted display in a very strategic collaboration with Siemens as well as with Qualcomm. So Siemens NX customers can utilize the software with our head-mounted display without any issues or any special modifications. So in that sense, we are helping them or different enterprises to adopt the technology without the need of adapting the contents to work on our headset. And by adopting the Snapdragon chipset, we are already enabling a lot of other content providers to already being compatible with our display, with our head-mounted display. So those are some of the initiatives that we are taking. And if you guys haven't seen our head-mounted display, I really encourage you to go to the Snapdragon booth. We have a demo over there. It's a very high quality display, 4K per eyes, micro LED. We completely redesigned the interactions because we understand that this is not a game product. It's mainly focused on enterprises. So if you see the controllers, it's totally different from what you've seen in the market. We have one which is on the right side. On the right hand, you do like a pointer, and on the left hand, you see like a ring for flipping the objects around. So it's a completely different interaction that helps, especially enterprises, to start adopting the head-mounted display.
And since you're already going to be in the area, swing over to the Elum booth and
Go to all the booths, okay? Check out all of them, because the best way of understanding this technology is to actually use it.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, we've run a little bit over, so my apologies, but hopefully you had some insights from the provider part as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Our adoption